So I'm there talking to a guy. His name's Nate Skousen, phenomenal artist. And we had a discussion about values and what do values actually do and how are they represented digitally. So what I usually do in my paintings is put in the values that I think I'm seeing when I'm observing from life. The reality is when I take a picture of it, it ends up not looking so good because the values are too dark in the shadows and the values are too light in the lights. So from our conversation, he said, well, maybe you're just making your values wrong and you need to correct them. So lighten up the values in the shadows so that there's less contrast between shapes and forms. So that's what this painting is. This is my attempt to make the shadow values lighter and also to compress those lighter values just a little bit darker, not too dark, but dark enough that you can see form and shape. So here I am just working in the basic structures of the painting. As you saw from the very beginning, I did a drawing and I divided the light shapes from the shadow shapes. That's what I'd call the second or two-dimensional shapes. And I'm just trying to see flat shapes. After I get those two-dimensional shapes, I filled in the flat values of the shadows, made them a little bit lighter because I'm trying to apply what we talked about earlier this last week. And then I started to just throw in those light values. And I'm comparing them. I'm trying to keep those shadow values a little bit darker than a value 5. And the light values, I'm trying to keep them at a value, 8 or 9. So they're relatively light in value. That darkest value is just some burnt sienna, I think is what it is that I was using in there for the hair. So that's the darkest value. And I'm trying to keep those value structures separate. So hair value is one, shadow values are another, light values are another grouping. So I have 3 separate groups of values. And I'm trying to stay within those values and see how this turns out. Total experiment. I don't know if it will look good. I personally don't really love this painting in real life because it is something new, it's something different, and it just, I don't know, it wasn't clicking for me, maybe because I had never done it before. But looking at it digitally and seeing the video portion of it, I'm like, wow, some of those colors and values are really, really nice. But that's because the camera is picking up those subtleties and is pushing them just a little bit more, pushing the chroma a little bit more, pushing the value a little bit more. And in real life, they're very, very subtle. So the forms are not as easily read. But anyways, as you can see, I'm going through this painting and I'm starting to work on the more specific forms, going from those general to more specific. And here I'm painting in the eyes and also the contour of that nose and trying to execute those values and colors. I was pretty far away from the model, so I had to get up close to their face and say, hey, I'm just looking at your eyes. I know it's kind of weird, but looking at their eyes to see what color and value were. And then softening out the eyebrows, the shapes and values of the eyebrows, and putting in some of that flesh tone again in the skin up on the clavicle and shoulders. So anyways, reworking the forms, I want to push it just a little bit more, but not too much that she looks like she's glossy. Want it to look fleshy, so semi-matte. And then softening out the values between the lights and the shadows so they're less abrupt. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I have the colors again at the top. This was painted on vellum, so it's a totally different experience painting on vellum, but it was fun. So I think I'm going to try to paint this way again in the future. Have a good one.